like a ball.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, this is going to be a preview from my course in emotional mastery. It's about how to be more confident in social situations. So if you're nervous around people, if you get anxious around social situations, and you want to be more confident in it, then this is the video to watch. It's not the complete course, but it's a small segment of the video of the course so that you guys can understand what's in that course. Okay. So let's begin with the video. By the way, people, don't make fun of my sunburn of my my what do you call that thing? I think it's called a sunspot. Hopefully it'll go away in a few weeks, man. But yeah, let's watch the video. And if you guys enjoy this, you can purchase the course in the description down below.
The first thing is that when you first start to meditate, the whole point of meditation is to not let your thoughts completely consume your consciousness, right? Because the way I see it, right, your thoughts are like, your mind is like a corrupt officer, like a corrupt police officer. How if you're a police officer, what's the best way to get more work? Increase crime, right? If there's crime, that means you need them to work. So a perfect example is like the war on crime, right? The war on crime pretty much says, hey, there's a problem because there's illegal drugs and we need to fight it. And the reason why we need to fight it is because it's illegal and it's underground. So because it's illegal, then people who have like drug task force can get paid. You create different departments, the drug administration, it gives people jobs. So you create things to make it illegal so that people could commit a crime, and then you could keep working, right? And it's kind of similar to that, where the mind needs to create problems so that it could keep working. If there's no more drugs, there will be no more, like, I don't know what you call the Department of Justice. Hey, quiet people. Whoever's that. Put on mute, people. If there were no like illegal drugs, those people who look for, like, what do you call that? The drug administration, something like that, right? I don't know.
Feds.
If the feds, yeah. The feds wouldn't have as much jobs, right? Yeah. So let's just say people stop using drugs. All of a sudden they don't have a job. So what would they do? They will plant more drugs. They will create more drugs or create more legislation to make more things illegal. So
Or sneak in.
Or sneak in the drugs. But the point is that that's your mind. Your mind is a corrupt officer. That when things are good, it says, okay, what the fuck? Things are good, so this person doesn't need me. So I need to create problems. So it creates unnecessary problems in order to keep functioning in your mind. If you were in paradise and everything was perfect, you're gonna eventually say, but. And that's happened to me before. I mean, and people who have a lot of like monetary success will say that. And you notice that the people who have the most money, who are in Hollywood, a lot of those people use a lot of drugs. And the reason why is because they've done everything to find fulfillment and it didn't work. So now let's try and find happiness through drugs, right? So your mind is very similar to that, where it creates unnecessary problems so that you could keep thinking about them, right? So your responsibility is to see through that illusion. Is to, even though you feel that you're waiting in line and that you really want to go home because you want to watch that show, this is some bullshit, I hate waiting in line. Your mind is making that problem so that it could keep functioning. It's almost like a parasite, right? So I could just be here, feeling sad, but if you notice is that you usually have to think of something to feel sad. Like, you don't just feel sad for the sake, like you don't just like plants are not sad. I'm like, oh, plants need to think in order, if it could think, and they need to think in order to be sad. So by you learning to see through the illusion, where you're waiting in line, you know your flight is about to leave in 10 minutes, you can't do nothing about it, and yet your mind tries to create a problem out of it. Where the truth is that there's nothing you could do. You just surrender to it. But the problem is that the emotion is so intense and it creates such an alarm system. And it says, hey, we need to get there. This is some bullshit. This really sucks. That you begin to feel like it's an actual problem. And it becomes a problem. That's a corruption of the mind, right? So the whole point of meditation is to train yourself to see through the illusion, to see through the fog of illusion, and to say that even though I feel depressed because of this or that, that's just your mind trying to find anything to get you engaged. He's like, okay, does this work? No, this doesn't work. Okay, let me bring this up. And it really doesn't, it really has nothing to do with the present moment, right? Does that make sense? So, so the whole point is when you meditate, you're breaking through that illusion. It's very similar to when you're hungry, right? Or you're in a desert and you're really thirsty. You begin to see mirages, right? Or where you think you see a lake of water and you run to it and it's actually just sand. Or even people who fast, right? Or even people who don't eat for a few days. What happens is that when you don't eat for a few days, your brain will begin to create hallucinations, and you won't see and you'll see things that are not there. Why is that? Because you're hungry, right? And so your brain is so hungry that it'll begin to create illusions of food, illusions of what you think will make you feel better, right? So the mind, whenever you are unsatisfied, similar to being thirsty or being hungry, whenever you're not satisfied with this moment, your mind will create emotional illusions, will create illusory problems. Most problems aren't problems. Most problems are just illusions. It's really hard to believe. It really is. Like it's something that even if I tell people, they know what I'm saying, but they kind of like emotionally don't believe it. And the reason why they don't believe it is because when they see that illusion, they react to it, right? So for example, right, it's kind of like where if I smoke weed, right, where I'll feel an urge to smoke, and then I'm like, wait, why am I feeling the urge to smoke? And it's because it feels like there's something wrong, something's missing. And then I'm like, oh, okay, so I feel unsatisfied, I feel anxious. But then I say to myself, okay, let's prove that. Right now, is there a problem right now? You know, just look around right now and ask yourself, what's missing in this moment? You know, you don't intellectualize it, you just observe. Then you notice that peace comes to you, almost like a relaxation. Your senses open up. And that's what I mean by seeing through the illusion. And how do you see through the illusion? By being in the present. Because when I said, what's wrong with this moment, it naturally forced you to just observe and listen to the silence. Feel your body. And then you notice that the problem was really just an illusion. Purely an illusion. And if you understand that it's just an illusion, whenever you feel anxious, you got to ask yourself, okay, what illusions is my mind creating in order to maintain itself alive? And you'll notice it's usually a projection of the future, where you want to be there, but you're here and you don't like that. And that creates that anxiety gap, or you feel guilt and you're thinking in the past, where if you just focus on the now, because what happens is that when you follow the illusion of the mind, you usually just lose touch with your body. Like, for example, like yesterday I was chilling, I was just watching a game, and I'm like, oh my God, this whole time I haven't been present. I'm like, and I just noticed on my breath. And it felt like I just turned on the light. I'm like, oh my God, I'm present now. It's almost like when you're watching TV and you're really engaged in the show, and somebody passes you and you don't even notice them passing you, right? You're seeing, but you're not seeing, right? You're hearing, but you're not hearing. You're touching, but you're not really touching. The mind has this ability to create an illusory world where you literally are not looking at reality, but you're looking at the world that your mind creates in order to maintain itself alive. And that illusion is the feeling of anxiety, the feeling of depression, sadness, resentment, guilt. All of those things are illusory because all of those things never have anything to do with what's going on in this moment. So it's all about seeing through that mirage. It's similar to, have you seen the movie It?
Yes.
Yeah, right? Well, the way It works is that it tries to scare you, right? He tries to scare you, and if you react, he eats you, correct? So what he does is that he finds out what are the things that you are scared of the most, right? Or i.e., what are the thoughts that identify with you the most? You know, I am this, I am that. Somebody could say you're a bad basketball player and that doesn't hurt you. But if somebody says you're a bad mother, all of a sudden that word has such a deep root in you that it creates a reaction. And then all of a sudden your mind is like, hey, this is a problem. We got to get some resources into this. And that resource, I don't know why it's Tyrone all of a sudden. Hey, we got a problem, man. We got to get all those resources, right? like it creates a problem, and those resources, which is in today's world, is money, funds, and this resource is your consciousness, where the trauma, even people who have trauma, or even people who have like anxiety attacks, well, the first thing that happens is that they disconnect from the world, they disconnect from their senses, and they stop being in the world, and they start engaging in a mind-made fantasy. It's almost like when you put the Oculus and you're in a little fantasy. That is a very real thing. People don't need to wear that to experience that. They could create that illusion by just not being present, like just walking around, not even aware of being aware. Does that make sense? Any questions? Let me get some coffee right here. So that's the whole point of meditation, is to see through the illusion. So how do you see through the illusion? Is by grounding yourself in the moment. What?
Would you say it's like equivalent to the ego?
Yeah, it's literally that. It's literally that. The ego, because imagine that your mind is like seeing the stars, right? Seeing billions of stars in the sky. And you know how people say the Milky Way galaxy? Like, how the fuck could you find that? Like, there's a bunch of stars, and all of a sudden you could see a dip, or like a Milky. Or like they see like a horse. I'm like, dude, that's bullshit. You can't see a horse. But what they do is that they say, okay, this. Oh, that's a horse, right? Imagine that this is just that thought. Oh, that's me. Those thoughts are you, right? But they're not really you, because there's a bunch of other thoughts. You just choose to highlight those thoughts, right? There are some thoughts that matter to us more than others. Just like some insults hurt us more than others, right? The whole point of meditation and letting go of your ego is to destroy those connections. Not that you lose who you are, but that you stop identifying with who you are. You stop emotionally reacting to the thought that I am this age, that I am this, that I am that, and you just see yourself as just a empty slate. Like, you don't lose who you are in terms of the world, but in terms of yourself, the thoughts that are revolving around you, they're not there no more. Because what makes you different from me is really just not just different thoughts, but really how we see ourselves, the thoughts that we have, the emotions that we have. That's what makes us unique, right? But what makes us more unique is not just the emotion, but the thoughts, right? Because we all have emotions, but you have different thoughts that you choose to entertain more than others. And your thoughts revolve around a very finite set of thoughts. And the more you think about it, and the more you merge those thoughts with emotion, the stronger it becomes. It's almost like you create almost like a sculpture of a person in your mind. And that's what you begin to see. And that's your identity. And so that keeps you in your head. Because all of a sudden when something doesn't relate to that thought, you're not interested. But when something relates to it, you focus on it. And that's where you can see how you begin to hold on to certain things. Oh my God, he hurt my feelings. Boom, you bring it in because that confirms your identity, right? Oh my God, I cannot believe he did that to you. So your brain says, ooh, look, more evidence that I exist. Let me hold on to that pain, right? And so you hold on to all of those things because they give you a sense of self. They give you an identity of sorts.
All right, so if you enjoyed that video, you guys can click on the description down below where it says Purchase Emotional Mastery. It starts off at $199. That's like the basic course. So, and if you don't like it, you could just ask for your money back after 14 days and you just get your money back. But yeah, I'll see you guys inside. It's really a 6-week course developing this practice and how to apply it in multiple areas of your life. It's not just about meditation. It's about how to bring presence to your social life, dating life, It's pretty much how to treat everything into a spiritual practice. Okay. Anyways, it's my favorite quotes I've ever created. The process was really fun, and I'll see you guys inside.